We're back with more gaming news. Again, we had to skip a week. There was New York Comic Con that we had to deal with. But we survived, barely. Surprisingly, not too many news things in the last couple weeks. Still a good amount, but not too many. So we're gonna jump right into it. A pretty thick list of layoffs and such and closures. Starting with Funcom. This is Andy Robinson, BGC. Metal Hellsinger Studio closed as part of Funcom cuts. News shared by Outsiders founder David Goldfarb on Monday. That was last Monday. Who said the closure was decided as part of company-wide layoffs at Funcom. And the studio was acquired just 3 years ago. He said, I have not had much time to process the news, but all of us at the Outsiders and Funcom Stockholm have been affected by the layoffs at Funcom, and our 10-year-old studio will be closing. Many of us had survived a near-death studio experience years back when Darkborn was cancelled, and because of the team's loyalty and refusal to quit, Metal Hellsinger was born. Founder at the studio had hoped to do something even better after Hellsinger, but things don't always go the way you hope. He called for anyone interested in funding a new studio to help the group continue. We're not giving up. We are going to try to continue on in some new form. If you think you can help in any way with business leads, placement for employees, guidance, whatever it is, I would be genuinely grateful if you reach out here. Change is always tough, and right now we are all hurting. Thank you so much. Metal Hellsinger review called the game an incredibly well realized concept packed to bursting with excellent music, unique weapons, and gameplay loop that's instantly addictive. This game did pretty well when it came out, I remember. A lot of people were playing it. It was like a rhythm shooter, like roguelite. It looked pretty fun. I never tried it, never got around to it, but it looked like it was a fun watch, seeing other people play it. And it looked like something we could have gotten into, but we just didn't have the time to get around to. But it's unfortunate that the studio is closing. Hopefully they do get some more help to continue their next project. Because we don't need any more of these stories, but we have them. We have them, don't worry. Next up, Heart Machine. The developers of Hyper Light Breaker. Chris Scully and VGC. So the studio behind Hyper Light Breaker is ending development on the game and confirmed it will be laying off some staff. Heart Machine, which previously released the critically acclaimed Hyper Light Drifter in 2016. Very, very popular. Very, very good game. And the Annapurna published Solar Ash in 2021 released Hyper Light Breaker on Steam Early Access back in January. The game is a prequel to Hyper Light Drifter, but rather an overhead pixel art action adventure game. It's a third-person polygonal one, like the difference between 2D and 3D Zelda games. Reviews for the Early Access version have been mixed. 67% of the reviews marked as positive. Studio has confirmed that the game developer that the Early Access period is ending for Hyper Light Breaker after around 9 months, with development on the game coming to an end. Heart Machine also stated it will be laying off staff as a result of the game's development ending, though it hasn't confirmed exactly how many will be affected. So I guess there's not going to be any full release of the game. This was supposed to come out Early Access in 2023. It got delayed a bunch. There wasn't as much hype after this was released in Early Access as there was before it was released. People waiting on it. So it's unfortunate. I guess there's not going to be any full release. It sucks. People were super, super excited about it, and it just fizzled, I guess. Next, NetEase closes the studio. Andy Chalk, PC gamer. NetEase pulls the plug on another studio. Former Riot exec's fantastic Pixel Castle will likely close if a new publisher isn't found soon. So, former Riot Games Vice President Greg Street left the company in 2023 and launched a new NetEase-backed studio called Fantastic Pixel Castle. Says the partnership with NetEase is coming to an end. The studio will likely close if a new publisher can't be found. Street delivered the bad news in a message posted on LinkedIn and social media, writing, I wanted to share this news that Fantastic Pixel Castle's time as a first-party studio within NetEase Games is coming to an end. NetEase Games has been very gracious and supportive of looking for another publisher for our game. However, in the current market environment, buzzwords, current market environment, very few deals are getting made for any game, let alone something in the scale of an MMORPG. We're doing everything we can to find a publisher or investor. At the same time, we're encouraging our team members to explore future opportunities and supporting them through the uncertainty. If we're unable to find a publisher soon, the reality is that the studio will likely close and the entire team, leadership included, would be affected. This is just more of the same. Sucks. This it's not so much, you know, they released a bad game and it tanked from profits. This just didn't get off the ground as much as they wanted it to, which is unfortunate. MMORPGs are like big games, so like that's gonna take a lot of development time, right? So I guess it just took too much. NetEase wasn't obviously confident enough to see it through. But speaking of studios that released bad games, Build a Rocket Boy, which released Mind's Eye, is now being sued by some former employees. It's Chris Scully, VGC. So Mind's Eye studio Build a Rocket Boy is being sued by union members over alleged mishandling of layoffs. In June, it was reported that the Edinburgh-based studio had started the process of laying off numerous staff following the disastrous launch of Mind's Eye on June 10th. Now, the Game Workers branch of the Independent Workers of Great Britain Union are filing multiple legal actions against the studio, accusing it of failure to carry out fair consultation ahead of redundancies, as well as multiple cases of unfair dismissal. I'll just go through the list of things that they're saying. The studio was accused of numerous things, including a lack of transparency and communication. Information has been sparse and vague, with you often making, and this is like you being the head of the development, like the head developers, like directed at the top brass, with you often making radical changes to the way we worked with little or no input from those affected. Saying that overtime requirements were just unbearable, required 7 hours. They were given a rate of 7 hours off for every 8 hours worked, but because of the constraints, they were just never able to even schedule the extra 7 hours per 8 hours off. Mishandling of redundancy processes. Employees have received misinformation, been handed dismissal notices with the wrong notice periods, and been put in the wrong teams so that their performances were scored by the wrong people. These and other errors have potentially resulted in the wrongful dismissal of dozens of staff members. And they have a list of demands: a public apology for the mistreatment of employees and proper compensation for laid off employees. Option for remaining employees on redundancy notice to either work their notice period or take payment in lieu of notice. Pylon. A concerted, meaningful, and documented effort to improve conditions and processes within the company, including the acknowledgement of the IWGB as a trade union. And lastly, a commitment to use official external partners to action any future redundancies and prevent unfair treatment. So the union is suing the developer, which is great. Fuck, get them. You know? It's clear that the people working on the ground floor of this game were being directed by people who had no idea what they were doing. That should be over here, by the way. And it's unfortunate because this was a cool concept that just didn't play out. And spoiler, maybe we play this game. Maybe we play this game for funsies. Who knows? Next up, let's do Remedy. Had a profit warning. This is Andy Robinson, VGC. Control Studio Remedy issues profit warning due to weak sales of FBC Firebreak. Completely forgot this game existed. I do want to get into it. I don't know if it's still even available. Let me check real fast. No, it's available. Still full price. That's unfortunate. But I would love to get into it. This game looks kind of fun. So, Firebreak, a PvE first-person shooter set in the Control universe, and Remedy's first full multiplayer game. Is that true? Was released in June. At the time, Remedy reported that launch sales had underperformed, but committed to improving the game based on player feedback. I think said there was like a million players in the first week or something. Yes, it was over here. The Alan Wake and Max Payne studio has changed its outlook for the current business year from expecting a revenue and operating profit increase to expecting operating profit to be negative. Remedy is recognizing a non-cash impairment of There's a lot of like business lingo here, so prepare yourselves, gamers. Remedy is recognizing a non-cash impairment of capitalized development costs and allocated purchase publishing and distribution rights related to FBC Firebreak, said the CEO, Tara Bertala. While we balance future investments to the title, we continue developing and improving the game in line with our updated long-term sales forecast. In its half-year financial reporting published in August, Remedy said that while FBC Firebreak reached over 1 million players in its first 10 days, it didn't necessarily result in financial success since the majority of the players were Xbox Series S and PS5 users, and the game was included in those respective like free game things, Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, stuff like that. Peak on Steam was 2,000 concurrent players. It's right now less than 100 on the recent search, so that's unfortunate. like legitimately, I'm gonna actually put it in my wish list right now, because I keep forgetting this game. It is mixed reviews, but it looks fun. Like, and I obviously we had just finished like fully playing the Control and all the DLCs recently. Did we finish the DLCs? I think we did. We did. I remember. And we also finished Alan Wake 2 recently. And that universe is pretty awesome. They really built up something good, and this looks like just a fun little jaunt through some of those enemies, you know? And as we move on to the last of the big stories, there's actually finally some official eyes being put on the Saudi Arabia deal with EA. Thank Christ. Not that anything's going to come of it, but it's at least progress that somebody or some people with authority are looking at it. Chris Scully, VGC. U.S. senators voiced concerns over foreign influence and national security risks in Saudi-funded EA acquisition. In response to the news, United States Senators Richard Blumenthal and Elizabeth Warren have now questioned the deal, warning of potential security risks and foreign influence over the Saudi-funded acquisition. In a letter to Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent, who also serves as chair of the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States, the two senators urged the committee to apply searching scrutiny to this unprecedented proposed foreign privatization of a major American technology and entertainment company, and requested information on how the committee plans to ensure that national security risks arising from the deal may be mitigated. They're talking about Saudi Arabia buying their influence by purchasing EA for $10 billion more than what it's valued. The fact that it's going full private now, which would hide any of its inner workings, right? The fact that the Affinity Partners, which was an American investment firm, is like run by Jared Kushner, but it's also backed by Saudi Arabia as well, and that it's possible that they're only using this firm to push the deal through, and not because like if it's still Saudi backed, it's gonna be fully under their control. So they asked Wilson to provide information on how EA plans to continue to operate free of influence from the authoritarian government that has a history of using technology to retaliate against critics, engage in covert influence campaigns, and censor free expression. So they're asking the CEO to come in and answer these tough questions. Is this stuff going to amount to anything? Who knows? If, like, recent history has taught us anything, probably not, which is unfortunate. But at least someone is trying, so you never know. Maybe a miracle will happen, you know? But the workers are also pissed about it. This is Ed Nightingale, Eurogamer. Employees and the Communications Workers of America Union have issued a statement against the proposed private acquisition of the company, claiming they were not represented in the negotiations, and any jobs lost as a result would be a choice, not a necessity, made to pad investors' pockets. They said in the statement, EA is not a struggling company. Annual revenues reaching $7.5 billion and $1 billion in profit each year. EA is one of the largest video game developers and publishers in the world. Citing the number of layoffs across the industry since 2022, workers fear for the future of our studios that are arbitrarily deemed less profitable, but whose contributions to the video game industry define EA's reputation. I can talk today. Don't worry, it's fine. If jobs are lost or studios are closed due to this deal, that would be a choice, not necessity, made to pad investors' pockets, not to strengthen the company. Every time private equity or billionaire investors take a studio private, workers lose visibility, transparency, and power. Decisions that shape our jobs, our art, and our futures are made behind closed doors by executives who have never written a line of code, built worlds, or supported live services. We are calling on regulators and elected officials to scrutinize this deal and ensure that any path forward protects jobs, preserves creative freedom, and keeps decision-making accountable to the workers who make EA successful. So it's possible, I don't know when this actual statement came out in relation to the other story. Hopefully this triggers even more eyes to be put on it, because honestly, this whole thing is super sus and just completely unnecessary and should be stopped in my opinion. I don't get it. I don't get it. We live in a weird world. But that's it for the main larger stories. We'll go through some of the smaller ones and then chat picks and then dev dubs. First up, Marathon has announced their testing again, and you can sign up. It's a long sign-up process. Trust me, I've done it. This is Andy Robinson, VGC. It's like the 22nd to the 27th of this month. So next week, through the weekend, Marathon will be doing testing. You just have to sign up in the link. Full NDA, can't do any streaming or recording and posting of it, but it's gonna be a technical test build. It's not gonna be a full test. It's only gonna be like a small slice of the game, apparently, from what they're saying. But they're testing, and I'm gonna try to get in it so that I can see firsthand how this game plays in the event that it maybe never comes out. Next up, Nintendo suing more people. Nintendo's officially suing a Redditor who was pirating games for years for $4.5 million in damages. Chris Cullen, VGC. $4.5 million for a Reddit user. They accused this person of being like the head honcho of all the online pirate sites and stuff, and charging people or asking for like Nintendo coin donations so that they can purchase more games to pirate, stuff like that. But that's just another addition to the list of people Nintendo is suing recently. But it's a lot of money for one Reddit dude. I don't know if it's been fully, yeah, that's just how much they're seeking. It's not official. That's how much the guy's gonna get hit with, but that's how much they're seeking. 4.5 million. We're gonna just fire through these. Next up, the developers of Pico Park have accidentally made their classic version free on Steam, I think. Chris Cullen, VGC. Pico Park Classic Edition. So what happened was the developer was like, hey, I like Pico Park Classic Edition. Maybe I'm going to add some online support for it finally, because this is like pre-regular Pico Park, apparently. He's like, yeah, I'm going to update the game. Download it now while it's free. I'm going to update it, put it in online mode, probably charge for the online mode and eventually. But it's going to be free for a while. You can get the update, and then you know, make it free, and then we'll charge again. So, but what the developer didn't realize was that if you switch your game from paid to free, you can't switch it back to paid. So now the Pico Park Classic Edition is apparently free on Steam. Let's double check. And it is confirmed Pico Park Classic Edition is free. So feel free to add that to your libraries gamer, because not only is it now free, but it also has online co-op. Take that. Make sure you add it to your libraries gamers. Next up, Expedition 33 has announced some large updates that they're working on. Andy Robinson, VGC. So big environment, no more bosses, all late game stuff. So just gonna go through the list quickly. Game real fun. They're gonna have a new playable environment. This is like their big, like, you guys are great update. New playable environment, taking the characters to a brand new location with new enemy encounters and surprises to discover. New boss battles for late game players to overcome. New costumes, of course. New text and UI game localizations, and even more surprises fans can look forward to. So that's cool. Who doesn't love a big free update, right? I love this. This is awesome. We will try to get this game completed as soon as possible. But hell yeah, new bosses for sure. New environment, hell yes. Let's make big game bigger. Next up, we've got some allegation or some rumors that the next two next-gen consoles, PS6 and Xbox consoles, are coming in 2027. There's reports of the AMD, I think it's the APU chip. Yeah, the AMD Magnus APU, which is a CPU and GPU together in one large block. Microsoft is telling people that, hey, we want this ready by 2027 for launch. They expect it to be a much more expensive console, but a much more blurred console or blurred machine device between PC and console. They're whoever the alleger Kepler L2, who has a history of a lot of correct insider knowledge. That's gonna be a more expensive device, but it's gonna be more of a competitor to PC gaming than it is console gaming. But it's supposed to be, because of this APU chip, supposed to be more powerful than whatever the rumored PS6 is supposed to be, which is also slated for, or also rumored for 2027 because of, what did they say? Oh, because of the handheld PS6 rumors. So the rumors that they're working on a handheld to be released 2027. So they assume that the new console is also going to be around that time. So hey, we got some pretty consistent, a history of consistent leaks, I guess, show or saying that the next gen consoles will be basically next year, because it's middle of October. So, 15 months from now, whatever it is. Next, a bit of downer news. I'm sure most people have already seen this, but the creator of Dead or Alive, Ninja Gaiden, director Tomonobu Itakagi passed away. He was like 58. Yeah, super young. It sucks. A really big like game changer, I guess you could say, for the industry. And it was kind of like against like making games easier just to make them easier. It was also like, yeah, we want the struggle kind of thing, from what I read. It sucks, but it would be upsetting if I guess I didn't put it in the news, because it is very large gaming news. Even though I've never really gone through any of the Dead or Alives. I've never really played any Ninja Gaidens or anything like that. But it's a big news story. It's a big loss for the industry. Next, some Battlefield 6 updates, starting with it going crazy, being like with sales. Become the biggest launch in series history. 7 million in 3 days, which is actually very nuts for a Battlefield game. This is Chris Kelly, VGC. Enjoys the biggest launch in history of the series. According to the publisher, sold more than 7 million copies in its first 3 days, setting record high sales for the series. 172 million matches played online, 50 million hours watched on streaming services. It was a big thank you. First season of new content is 12 days away, which is crazy. Battlefield hit EA's highest ever concurrent player count on Steam, reaching a peak concurrent count of 747,440, overtaking the 624,000 set by Apex Legends. Crazy that Battlefield 6 outperformed Apex Legends. But there's also some bugs. Don't worry. Classic Battlefield bugs. First is, and I don't know if these have been patched out yet. They might have been. But first is there is a delay with the aim, like recoil bloom. Connor McCarr, Eurogamer. So apparently, like, well, as you're pew-pewing and the bloom effect happens for the aiming, for the accuracy, sometimes when you reset your ADS, it doesn't reset the bullets, as we could see in this video here. All right, so dudes, he's shooting. This is how it's supposed to go. He's shooting, he resets, everything's fine. Yep. Then we move on. And then this fight, it's not fine. What happens there? Because he was shooting over here. Where is it? Over here. So he's shooting. It's fine. Recoil is fine. It's going pretty straight until he holds it down, because they want you to burst fire. But then he goes at this guy, and like the first few bullets are just nowhere near his red dot. They're just nowhere near his red dot. Slow motion. Look at the first bullet is over here. The first bullet's over here. That's wild. And then the other ones are all around it. Almost none of them were actually down the middle. Wild. But I'm sure it'll get patched. But on a more fun side, there is a bug for ladder launching apparently, but that they've officially said that's going to be patched out. This is Connor McCarr, Eurogamer again. So they've announced, they've officially said that they're going to fix this, but not the other thing. They're going to try to patch out ladder launching, which if anyone doesn't know what that is, this video will explain it. If it'll load, there we go. So you use the tactical ladders that you can put around, and you can just launch yourself. So you put the ladder just goes. It launches you. So you could get this perk that you could just drop a ladder, which is useful to get into high spots, but then you can just jump on and go whee, which rules. Hey, if you want to do this, have fun in the game, play it now before this gets patched out, because that looks like a lot of fun actually. That looks like a lot of fun. You just bounce off those ladders, go real far. That's it for the smaller news, though. Let's do some chat picks. We only got a couple. Some of the chat picks we moved into main stories or already had. Apparently the Bubsy 4D demo is better than the original. This is Justin Wagner, PC Gamer. Polite Society buried a lot of platformer mascots as we exited the 90s, but something Bubsy had over contemporaries like Gex and Croc. The games were astoundingly memorably dreadful. Problem is, most of Bubsy's new games aren't much better than the ones that made him famous. 2 recent revival attempts sit at mixed user reviews on Steam, but something has shifted. When I played Bubsy 4D demo, dropped yesterday, realized I was having a good time. I was playing Bubsy, listening to them crack jokes that were so bad it actually pissed me off. Platform was tight, responsive, and fun. So it's still a game. It's gonna be better than its older counterparts apparently. And then the other one, Crew 2's offline mode finally goes live. So this is cool. This is a good update. Gamers and Ubisoft are a W. They actually put the offline mode into the game so that they can continue playing the game. Servers aren't taken offline, so the game doesn't just disappear. So that's awesome. This was Andy Chalk, PC Gamer. So you can still play Crew 2 if you want. You just offline. But it's awesome that they are not basically ripping the game away from people. And last thing, we'll go with the dev dub, which this week goes to Sucker Punch. Not for anything too crazy, but they're standing firm in that they're going to be doing one passion project at a time, and they refuse to do anything more. Sandy Robinson VGC, which is a good thing this day and age. Sucker Punch will remain a single project studio after Ghost of Yotei boss suggests. Speaking to VGC in a broad Ghost of Yotei retrospective interview, Sucker Punch co-founder and studio head Brian Fleming discussed the developer's determination to stay relatively small in AAA terms and how it will decide its next project after Ghost of Yotei Legends releases next year. The truth is, whatever we do next, whether it's continuing Ghost or going back to Sly, the decision is really more limited by, again, our cherishing of focus and time to iterate, which means that we really can only do one thing at a time. If we were good at juggling 4 projects, we'd have a remaster, let's do one of those, and some fan requests that would be really popular, but we only get to do one thing. So it kind of has to be your best idea. And that's really clarifying. It's not like there aren't 15 good ideas, but you only get to do one. And by the way, you only get to do one about every 5 years. So that choice is really important. I mean, it's that is choosing your college and your major every 5 years. It's a really big decision. You better think carefully about it. With Sucker Punch's 30th anniversary approaching in 2027, many fans will be hoping to see a return of its classic franchises like Sly and Infamous. According to Fleming, diversity of expectations is a challenge it also faces internally as well as from its fans. At 30 years, we now have employees who are kids of former employees. We have employees who weren't born when the studio was founded. And you also have had enough changes from Sly to Infamous to Ghost that part of those changes, when they happen, is that it means not just you're walking away from Tsushima and not you're walking away from actors in Tsushima, but you're walking away from employees who have been a part of the studio for the last decade because they don't want to do a game set in a historical setting. So, dev dub for Sucker Punch, creators of Ghost of Yotei, because they are standing firm in their, we will not be overwhelmed by executives and higher ups and be forced to just follow trends, which is awesome. And with that, we're caught up with gaming news. I'm pretty sure we did everything. Let's go through this again. Yeah, we covered everything. But yeah, hey guys, thanks for hanging out for this week's catch up of gaming news. Make sure to check out the links in the chat. YouTube, Twitter, Discord, TikTok, and so on and so forth. We'll be back next week with more gaming news for sure. But thanks for hanging out. Really appreciate you guys. Make sure to hit the buttons for the videos, the short form and the long form, and then hit the comments for anything that we were dumb on or that we missed. And then until next time.